Hey y'all, hey, if you liked the video, click that like button and click subscribe so that you'll get notifications whenever we post new content. Appreciate you watching. Hey y'all, Fat Man Outdoors. Got a request after we posted the video of killing that monster buck. That would like to see a video on how I clean my muzzleloader. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little video, try to not be no longer than I have to be, and explain what I do and why I do it and the tools I use for cleaning my muzzleloader and prepping it for long-term or off-season storage. With me, it's not usually very long because I like to shoot with muzzleloaders. So what I'll do is I'll clean them up, still prep them for long-term storage, but it's not super important with my guns because they're all time out. A lot of people, they don't get to do that. You know, a lot of people, they only get to use their guns during hunting season or only choose to. You know, if you ain't got time, you ain't got time. Everybody's got stuff they got to do. But I'm just going to give you a brief rundown of what I do and show you what I use and let y'all go on with your day. So let's get to it. Alright y'all, here's a brief rundown of basically the tools that I'm going to use to clean my muzzleloader. I'm going to have a couple different sizes patches, one to scrub the bore with, and then ones that I'll use to put a little oil at the end and wipe everything down. I'm going to use a couple of these brass brushes. I'm also going to use one of these felt brushes to swab out with. Of course, I've got to have the tools that I use to take it down with. I'm going to use some brass rods here to put together to make a cleaning rod with. I've got a couple of brushes, a couple of small hooks here that if I need them. Most of the time I won't need them, but just in case, they're in this kit. Really nice kit from Allen, by the way. I'm going to put a video out on it for possible Christmas gifts for some of you ladies to get for your guy, or for you guys to get for your ladies if she likes to shoot. Also, I'm going to use grease. Okay, this is just standard grease. You can use synthetic. It's usually better because it won't water away, especially if you're not going to be handling the gun for some time and it's going to be sitting in the gun safe for a long time. You don't have to worry about it getting thinned out and running down and not being a protectant as much as this heavy duty axle grease will. The axle grease still works just fine. It's just synthetic's a little bit better, but I'll show you where I put it and then I'll explain why I put it. One of my very important items that I use is snake cam. This thing, it's invaluable when you're doing stuff like this to clean bores and threads and hard to get to places, because you can make sure, you can verify you've got everything cleaned out. Then of course I'm just going to have a standard old roll of paper towels that I'm going to use to wipe stuff off and wipe my gun off with, if there's places I need to wipe that are dirty. And a lot of times you can get paper towel in there and it's a little bit more absorbent to get water out if it gets in a place where I'm going to be working, because I will be using water on this job. Now also I have a gallon ice cream bucket. It's got about 2 inches of hot water with some dish soap in it. Now that's what is going to be the main cleaning solvent that I'm going to use to clean the bore and snake it all out real good and wash all that black powder residue. Well, it's not actually, technically it's black powder, but not black powder. I'll shoot Pyrodex pellets or the fire sticks, and I've got some regular black powder, but I usually use that for loading my Martini Henry. It's a little bit cleaner to shoot regular black powder in my opinion, but it's a lot more expensive than the Pyrodex to get true black powder now, so I kind of keep that for when I load my Martini Henry. But anyway, that's a rundown of the stuff we're going to use here real quick to clean this rifle with. Let me get into showing what I got to do to break this gun down and get right into getting her cleaned out. Let me reset the camera and we'll get right to it. Alright y'all, I'm just going to quickly show you what I do to break this gun down to get it ready to be cleaned. First I got to take off my monopod here. It's pretty easy to take off. It just velcros on. You'll actually see me use it in the video where I killed the buck. I had it strapped to this rifle. But anyway, we got that off and get it out of the way. Now I got to verify that this gun does not have a cap in it. It does not have a cap in the nipple. Second thing I got to do, I'm going to take this ramrod and I'm going to put it down in there and I'm going to match it up to the ring. I don't know if you guys will be able to see that little ring right there too well. Right there at the end of my thumb. Now that's my loaded ring. If this gun has got a load in it of powder and a bullet, it'll stop at that ring. And as you can see, it completely swallows the whole rod. So I know it's not loaded. Okay, so I'll leave the rod out. Lay it down right there so we know we're not loaded. Now what I'll do is open my bolt. Okay, first thing I got to do is get my Allen wrenches out here. Now I want you to notice something as I'm taking this gun apart, how easy the screws and the breech plug comes out of this. I got to remove this bolt right here. That's a screw that holds in the bolt. Look at this. I can take one finger and loosen that. Okay, that's one of the biggest causes to damage to muzzle loaders, above and beyond leaving powder in them, is that people tighten stuff down too tight. Snug is all you need. Okay, that's it. Now here's the tool that I use after I pull the bolt. Okay, so now I have I've got a straight line, so I can go straight up through the receiver with this tool, and I use a socket, a 7/16 socket. There's a socket head on the breech plug. Now watch this. Watch how easy it is to turn this to loosen it. Look at that. Nothing tight. You don't need to break it loose. It's because when it went in, it was greased. Now it's going to be dirty and nasty when I take it out, because the gun has been fired 3 times, I believe. No, twice. Been fired twice since I last cleaned it. Now the breech plug will slide right out. There's the breech plug. You can see how dirty, nasty, and all the carbon built up on that. We're actually going to take that and clean all that off of there. And this is actually 2-piece. This nipple screws out as well, and we'll take it out in a few minutes. And that way we can clean the whole thing separately and make sure everything's good and clean. Now I'm going to take my sling off. And you don't have to do this, but the reason that I do it is because I don't want my sling to be getting down in the water that I use. So there's my slings off. Now the only thing I've got is just the barreled receiver and the stock and the scope. Now at this point, you could take the stock off of the barrel and it would probably make it a little bit easier for you to clean it. I don't find it necessary because this gun stays pretty clean. I keep track of this old rifle pretty good. So all I would need to do is just put the muzzle down in the water, and then fix me up a rod here that I can put a patch on to make a suction seal, and I'll show you what it does to pull the water up and down through the barrel. So we'll let me get everything set up to do that, and we'll be right back. Okay, now what I've got is I've got a 1.5 inch square patch, and I've set me up a pretty long rod, as you can see, a brass rod out of my Allen cleaning kit with a 50 caliber jag on the end of it. All I want is to use this little 1.5 inch pad. I'm going to set it right down in where the breech plug goes, so that it's already sitting pretty much where I need it to be. It'll make it a whole lot easier than trying to go through the walls of the receiver with the cleaning patch already on the jag. So now what I'll do is I'll go all the way down till this thing stops, keeping the barrel standing up in the water. Okay, now you hear that? That's actually pulling that water right up into the receiver and the barrel. And I want to make sure that I come all the way up and get that water in there, that good soapy water. Hot water, it'll break every bit of that old powder and carbon and stuff that's in there. And you know you're doing it right when you can start to smell that rotten egg smell, because it's washing it all out of there. Now that's why I use the gallon ice cream buckets, because let's face it, women know when we stink the house up. You know, whether it's fishing stuff or it's gun stuff or whatever it is, we stink the house up. They know it and they don't like it. So this way you contain it in that gallon jug, that gallon ice cream container. You only put a couple inches of water in there, and you're not going to have to worry as much about spilling it and getting it on the carpet or on the floor. Most usually I would do this out in the shop, but it's a little chilly out there this morning, and thought I'd go ahead and do it at the house. Now I'll do this for a couple of minutes. I'm going to go ahead and finish this up, and probably do this for a couple more minutes, make sure I've got everything washed out good. Alrighty, I've got her swabbed out real good. I think that should be fine. I'm going to take a couple pieces of paper towel here, pull the gun up out of the hot water, and you can see soap suds all over it. I'm going to wipe all that off. Now the reason you could do this with cold water, I mean, it's just warm water or hot water is a little bit better about cleaning stuff, but also it heats that metal up on the barrel while you're doing that. You can feel the barrel on this gun right now, and it's warm, pretty warm all the way up to here. And it'll cause that water to dry faster and come out of the barrel, so you ain't got to deal with that as much when you're finishing up what you got to do now. So now what we want to do is, I'm going to get my laptop out here and get it fired up so that we can put my camera in and see what's going on down the bore of this thing, make sure we ain't got nothing happening that we don't know about, no pitting or nothing like that. And my majority of the thing I want to do is I want to look at the threads where the breech plug goes in and make sure that there's no powder residue left in that before I put my grease on, and after we've cleaned our breech plug and put the breech plug back in. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to swab the barrel out with a dry patch, because the first time I ran the camera down was just right after I stopped swabbing the barrel with the soapy water, and now I want to just dry the barrel out, because you could see on the video that there was still actually some soap suds in the barrel. Now I'm just going to swab it a little bit with the dry 1.5 inch, and there was very little stuff come out right off the bat on the very first patch. So we've got it pretty clean right now, but I want to take a look at it and make sure that we've got everything swabbed out of there good. So now I'm going to drop my camera back down in it again and see what it looks like now. Oh yeah, that's clean. That is clean. This old rifle's got a lot of airs on it. Alright, get down to the threads. They are right there. I'm going to dim the lighting just a little. When you dim that lighting in that barrel, it gives you a little bit better view of what you're seeing, and those threads are very clean. There's no big chunks of powder left in there, no carbon. That's pretty doggone good for the first time swabbing it. I'm going to run another clean patch down it, and I'm probably going to go ahead and oil it and call it good as far as the inside of the barrel. So let me go ahead and get another clean 1.5 inch patch. No oil or anything on it. And I'm going to go ahead, swab that out. Come out almost 100% clean. Oh yeah, we're in great shape. Great shape, yeah buddy. Alright, now you'll be able to see something right here. It's very telling though. See how dirty my finger is? That's where I had it stuck in the area where the threads are that the breech plug's going to go. That has got to get cleaned out. Even though it didn't look like there was anything in there on tape, there's still stuff in there. So now for that, here's what I do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shorten the cleaning rod I'm going to use because I'm going to come in from the receiver end this time, not from the muzzle end. And I'm going to change out what I'm using to clean with, and I'm putting on a brush to clean a 20 gauge shotgun. Okay, that copper brush is to clean a 20 gauge shotgun. Now what I'm going to do is I'll turn the gun upside down, and I'm going to go down through here, and I'm just going to twist it. When it gets into where the threads is, I'm just going to twist it around and around and around in those threads. Don't try to shove it down in the barrel, because it'd be a real tight fit, and if you do it with a short rod, you're going to be in trouble because it's almost impossible to pull it out. So you'd have to twist another piece of rod on to push it the rest of the way through. So all we want to do is just that, and you can look, there's a bunch of stuff that come on that. I'll roll that across my hand, and you can see the little black polka dots. Okay, now I'm going to take that brush off. And this is the spot where you need to be careful, because this is what helps you more than anything. But if you get over exuberant with this, you could be in trouble. Don't get it down in the bore. You just want to stay in the threads. This is a swab for a 20 gauge shotgun. Okay, and it's all I'm going to do is I just pushed it down into those threads a little bit. I don't want to go past the edge of the threads. I want to stay right in the body of those threads. That way I can pull this thing back out pretty easy and twist it. And as you twist it, it's going to wipe all that loose powder that you just knocked loose with that copper brush, and it'll get all that out of there. And I segregate this brush. I killed this one. I had to buy a new one for 20 gauge because it's the one that works best for using doing the muzzle loading stuff. And after you use it once, it's no longer fit for service for shotgun. So now, after I've done that, I'm going to put my cleaning jag back on. And I'm going to lengthen my rod again. And I know there's a lot of steps to doing this, and everybody's probably saying, man, you don't have to do all that. Let me tell you something. I can take you out to my shop right now and show you 2 inline muzzle loaders that weren't taken care of properly. Nobody didn't want to spend the time to do what needed to be done. And now they're sitting out in my shop. Breech plug stuck in them. You can't get it out with the impact gun. I'm going to probably eventually try to weld a rod to them and get it out, but I don't know that they'll ever be worth anything now anyway, because the chambers are really, really bad. So now all I'm doing with this is I'm just right at the top of the chamber, right at the bottom of the threads. I'm just pulling it back and forth a little bit to get anything that's loose there, and then I'm going to go all the way down through. I'm actually going to screw my handle off. If it doesn't go all the way through, I'll screw that handle off. I think this one, yeah, this one will go all the way through. Push the patch all the way out. I want to take a look with that snake light again and see how my threads look. But this time, I think I'm going to go down in through where the chamber's at. And I'll try to record this for you. Oh, look at that. Look how clean that is. It's really, really clean. If it's not clean, you'll see like chunks, and it's not. That's awesome. All right, now we've basically got the barrel all cleaned out. All we need to do to it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my oil here. My rim oil out. I'm going to get another clean 1.5 inch patch. I'm just going to set it right over the muzzle. Okay, and I'm just going to put about 3 little shots. It don't take much of this rim oil. This stuff does pretty well. Okay, and I want to move it around a little bit. And all the length of the barrel. I want to jag this up and down in the full length of the barrel. Now when you do this, if you over oil them, and I tend to do that, I tend to put too much oil in them sometimes. What I always do before I'm going to load to go hunting is I I'll put a cap in it with no load in it and shoot a cap through it, so that way if there's any excess oil in there, then it's going to blow it back out. Alright, so now we've swabbed the barrel, we've washed it real good with good hot soapy water, then swabbed it back out with clean brushes, or clean swabs, and now I've run a swab through it with a little bit of rim oil on it, and it doesn't take a lot. It's good stuff. So now that barrel is good and oiled. We checked the threads with the camera, and we checked the barrel with the camera, make sure there wasn't a whole lot of powder residue or anything left in those threads, so that's all took care of. Now this is where you can use either or. I'd rather use the bigger patches. You can use paper towel in this situation. I'd rather get some. I keep the 4-inch patches just for this to wipe out chambers and large areas on guns when I'm cleaning them. Paper towel tends to leave a little bit more trace evidence, I guess you could say. It'll leave fibers in there, and most of the time it probably wouldn't affect anything. But my luck, I'd do it and leave a little chunk of something in there, and it getting just the right spot to cause an issue when something walked out in front of me that I didn't want to be able to walk away. So I'll use these patches right here, the bigger ones, and I'll rub in here and get everything out that I can, make sure there's no big buildup. If I see anything in there that kind of alerts me, I don't really see anything that's going to be an issue. Everything looks good. I really like this old rifle. This old rifle's been around the world with me. I've killed a lot of critters with it, that's for sure. And I have now officially killed the 2 largest deer I've ever killed in my life. Have been killed with this gun. And neither one of them didn't run nowhere. The one we shot the other evening, it ran about 25 yards. The other one that I shot with it, it didn't take 2 steps. I mean, it basically just dropped it right where it stood. So I really like it. The gun shoots true, and I've shot several different types and brands of projectiles through it, and it shoots all of them pretty true. I like the ballistic tip stuff. I've got a couple different ones. I've got some Hydra shocks and stuff like that I like shooting through them. I've got a new one up here that's, well, it's new to me. It's going to be the first time I've ever tried it. That when we go back out the next time, I'm going to shoot through it and see how it does. But this old gun's always shot everything I put through it. This one's kind of intrigues me, the new one. I'm going to make a little video on it in a couple of days. It's supposedly the bullet that can reduce your recoil. That's going to be interesting to see. I don't know. I've never tried one, but we're going to try it and see. Someone sent me a package of them and wanted me to try it and do a little testimonial on it. We'll give it a shot and see what happens. Alright, so now we got the barrel swab, barrel oiled. I've wiped out the receiver. I have not re-oiled it yet. I won't do that just yet. And I'm looking physically in there where the threads are for the breech plug. Everything looks nice and clean and shiny. Looks really good. So now we're going to set the gun to the side. For right now, we've done everything we need to do to it. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to clean the breech plug. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate the breech plug and the nipple, because they just screw together. I just use pliers because it's a little bit hard to hold on to because it's greasy. I don't put them in tight. It just threads right out. That's the nipple for this type of rifle. And now there's the old nitty-gritty breech plug. Now we've still got our jug of hot water down here with soap in it. I'm going to set it up here on the table and plop those right down in there. And then I'm just going to rub them around in the water. Let that soak into that carbon and powder residue, and it'll wash it right out. These things will come out looking entirely different. And then after we get them washed on the outside real good, then we'll do what we need to do on the inside through the fire, I don't know how, what do you call that, spark hole, I guess, maybe, a spark channel. I've heard people call it different things, fire hole, all kinds of different stuff. You get around to a lot of people, and first thing you know, they'll start making inappropriate jokes about stuff like that, so I try to avoid that discussion if I can. Alright, so now we've got the breech plug pretty good washed down. Get some paper towel here. Probably be better production for y'all to watch if I kind of organize myself a little bit better, but that ain't me, so I live life disorganized. If I got organized, I guess my wife would get worried. Now I take this paper towel and I'll screw it right down in there where them threads for that nipple goes into the breech plug, and you can see all the stuff, that soapy water broke loose, and that's every time this thing gets cleaned. That's what it looks like when you pull it apart. If you shoot it, it's going to be dirty. Now I'll take a little bit of that, start right down through the spark hole. And if you don't think cleaning stuff like this is important, watch the video that I posted, that I put up. I think it's entitled Paying Attention to Detail. I made a mistake not cleaning the spark hole good on my double barrel muzzleloader, and got a cap bang but no gun bang on a big turkey this spring. And that's the only turkey I got a shot at the whole season, and the eye caused me not to kill it because I didn't check it. Look at the stuff that came out of, just out of the touch hole in this gun. But now it's starting to clean up good now. Now I'm going to put it right back down in the water again, because there's stuff in there that was water and soap wasn't getting to until I wiped off what just got broke up. Alright. Now, getting the paper towel shook back out here where I got some volume to work with. Now what I'm going to do is, I have a little wire brush here. It's for a 17 caliber. It will go down that touch hole in this, no problem. That touch hole is quite a bit bigger than this, so I can rub that around in there just gently so that I don't damage my brush from a 17, but it'll knock off any extra carbon that's in there that's built up. And again, people may be saying, man, you're going overboard cleaning this thing. No, I'm not. To be honest, I'm not doing enough, I don't guess. But this cleans those threads out on the inside real well. Breaks up any carbon that's left inside of there. I've shot this same rifle for about 24 years. So there ain't very many people got the same muzzleloader they've been using for 24 years. And it be in good shape. Chamber be in good shape, barrels in good shape. Still killing deer with it. And this is why, because when I clean it, I take my time and I pay attention to detail. That makes a big, big difference. Alright, one more time down through here. I'm going to screw that thing right down in there so that paper towel will press into those threads. Alright. Oh yeah. Now look at the difference. See that? Shiny down in there. Hope you can see that, but huge difference. I mean, it's nice and clean. Ain't nothing at all inside of that thing. That come out really, 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 really good. I like it. Wow. Yeah, that's nice. That come out super clean. Alright, now we got the inside done. Now we got to do the outside. Now for the outside, I've got a little brass brush. And what I'm going to do is brush those three. A lot of times I'll take this tool wrap paper towel around the breech plug, take this tool and put it on the nut part of the breech plug and just thread it out, squeezing on that paper towel and threading it back out. And what that does, that causes that paper towel to dig right down into those threads, and it wipes them clean all the way through. And I'll back that thing all the way out to where it screws all the way out of that paper towel, and I'll show you what it does, which I'm sure anybody that's cleaned anything has seen stuff like this, but you got to ask for it, so I'm going to do it. I enjoy doing this, and I want to be helpful. You can see all the stuff that it still took out of those threads even after it had been cleaned that much. But now, yeah, it's super duper clean now. Super duper clean. That's awesome. Alright, now we're ready to put the nipple back in. So we're going to get it out. Got to wipe it down just a little bit. I'm trying my best, guys, to keep this as short as possible, but this is not going to be a real short video. It's probably, I'm going to try to keep it down to about 20 minutes, but I got a feeling that's going to be hard to do. Now, I want to look and make sure that I can see through that thing. That's got it pretty clean. Okay, alright. Everything looks good with that. It's good and wiped out. This is where I think is the most important part. We're getting close to being done here, so but this, we've just now got to what I think is the critical area that everybody needs to pay attention to when you're cleaning these muzzle loaders. And it's pretty simple, okay, but it's extraordinarily important. Some kind of lubricant everywhere there's threads, okay. If you're screwing the nipple into the breech plug, that is a connection that needs to be greased when it goes together. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a Q-tip here, and I have a bunch of them in my cleaning kit. It don't take much of this grease, just a little dab. Just, you don't have to cake it on there, just a little bit on the threads. And what that will do is that will make it to where it will never ever seize if you ever go to take it apart. Now, take your finger and wipe off any excess that's on the top or on the flat surface of the nipple, and make sure you can see through it, okay? Now, I'm going to set that nipple down. I put grease on it. Again, I'm going to check my threads one more time. Then I'm going to take this Q-tip and I'm going to put grease on the inside of those threads where the nipple screws down in there. Alright, now we got grease on that. Now screw the nipple finger tight, okay? As tight as you can get that with your finger, that's all it needs. You don't need to put a wrench on this. You don't need to put pliers on it. The only reason I put pliers on it a while ago was because it was greasy and it was hard to hold. But if you put anything past just screwing that down there with your fingers, then you're going to cause that to seat against the breech plug, and you could very well cause the nipple to break when you try to take it out if you got to use a wrench or a socket or a pair of pliers or something. Just finger tight. That's all you need, finger tight. Now we're going to do exactly the same thing we done on the threads of the nipple on the breech plug, but we're going to get a little more grease than we had, and we're going to paint the threads with this grease. This is so important, so important if you have an inline muzzle loader. You can use just regular wheel bearing grease. You can use synthetic. I think personally synthetic is better, but I am out of synthetic grease at the moment. I got to go get some, and I just ain't had time to do that. Make sure though it's grease that's not been left out to get water in it or anything like that. You want it to be good grease, and you want to coat the entire threads of that breech plug. And even after my rifle, even after this rifle had been shot several times without the breech plug being taken out, I'd swabbed it out when we went to the range, but I didn't take the breech plug out. And then we shot it 2 more times after that. Actually, I think it'd been shot 4 times without the breech plug being taken out, and then the 5th shot was when I killed the deer. So it'd been shot 5 times with the breech plug not being taken out, just the barrel being swabbed. And when I took it out, I just turned the screwdriver with 2 fingers and it came right out, and there was no gritty feeling. 2 reasons why that happened. Number one is because before I put it in there, I put grease on it, okay? But then after I put the grease on it, something happened. That whenever you shoot it, it wouldn't allow carbon and powder to get down in the threads. That grease acted as a lubricant, but also as a sealant, and it kept everything from getting onto the threads. And it worked also in reverse, that there was no moisture could ever condense and go up through there and get on your powder and your breech. Alright, now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my breech plug and drop it right down through the hole in the receiver that the bolt goes through. That drops right down in there, goes right where it's supposed to go. You can't hardly put it in the other way because the breech is like 3/4 cut. That hole where the bolt is like 3/4 cut, and the breech plug won't hardly drop in there. It's much easier to just drop it straight down in there. Now I'm going to thread this down in there with this screwdriver. Now here's something else to remember too. Don't get a socket and ratchet to do this. Don't give anything that's going to give you a mechanical advantage. You want the pounds per square inch to be 1 to 1. You don't need a mechanical advantage, because if you do, you might be over tightening something and not even know you're over tightening it. Because you can put a whole, if you're out here turning something, that's putting a whole lot more pressure on it than what you are, because it's mechanically advancing the pressure that you've got. Now, you can see right there, 2 fingers, that stops. Okay, whenever that breech plug screws down and stops, right there, that's as far as I'm going. I'm not going to grab the screwdriver and tighten it down, nothing like that. When I screw it down and it stops, I feel it hit, that's as far as it's going. You have now officially closed the bolt on the rifle, okay? It's in all of the lugs, which are the threads for the breech plug, and it can't go any further, forward or backwards. All you can do is just tighten it down against those lugs tighter and take a chance of causing them to seize together. But it should just be, you feel it stop, and that's all you need to do. Once it stops, that's all it needs. Alright, so now we've put that back together. Now we have one more screw that's got to go back in the rifle, and that is the screw that, well, I'll tell you what we need to do first. Okay, now the next thing after we got the breech plug put in is we're going to set the rifle to the side again, and we're going to take the bolt. Now on this rifle, you can take the bolt apart. I'm not going to do it on it right now, because there's not really anything that it's going to help you guys, me taking this bolt apart, because everybody's got a different rifle, okay? Not everybody's going to have the same rifle I got, and everybody's bolt's not going to come apart in the same way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this one first by wiping it down with paper towel and getting any loose carbon that's on it off, so that I can see the areas that I need to work on. Most of the time with this gun, nothing ever gets on it except right up next where the cap is, and I just wipe that out real good and oil it, and that's basically as far as you need to go with it. Now every 2 or 3 years I'll pull the bolt completely apart and clean the main part of the bolt out, because some carbon will get built up in there, but it takes years and years and years for it to make a difference of enough going in there to need to be taken apart. So basically what I do is I just wipe down the face of the bolt. This bolt has a groove that it rides on a screw that we're going to be putting back in a minute. I make sure there's no bunch of carbon in that, wipe it down good. This gun seals up real good and tight. There's not much blowback at all, so the back end of the rifle don't get hardly anything on it, more than just somebody touching it when they're shooting it or something. But yeah, like I say, every year or 2 I'll pull this bolt apart, take a little bit of carbon that's in there out, but it's 99% of the time it's basically nothing. This bolt is just there for show. The gun would shoot just the same as if you didn't even have the bolt in it and you hit it with a hammer, you know, because all this does is just hold the firing pin. It's for show. I like it. It's pretty neat the way they made them, but it's not all that important. It doesn't really ever come in contact with any powder or any impact or anything. So basically it's another one of those wipe down parts. So now I've got it all wiped off. There's no carbon on there. Now I'm going to try to find what I did with my rim oil. Oh, there it is. Glad it wasn't a snake. I'm going to take one of these 4-inch or one of these 2.5 inch patches, and I'm going to put 4 shots, small shots of rim oil on it. Now I know everybody's going to go, "That's a stainless steel gun, don't need no oil on it." You're right, it doesn't, but I like to put it on there anyway. Okay, so now got everything pretty good wiped down. Got everything lubed up. Alright, now we're going to put the bolt back in. And like I said, there's a groove in here that a screw rides on. Okay. Take a look at the screw, make sure everything looks good on it. It does, and I'm actually going to take the grease that's still left on my Q-tip a little bit and rub it on the threads of that screw so that it stays good and lubricated as well. And then set it right down there. Take my Allen wrench. Screw that down, and again, don't give yourself a mechanical advantage. Do not take the short end and put in the Allen wrench head and go to tighten that down. Don't do it. Take the long end in there where you got to turn by the little short end. Don't give don't give yourself a bunch of mechanical advantage. Screw that screw down till it stops, and go on this one. Go a little past stopping. You want it to be tight enough so it don't vibrate and fall out, but you don't want to over tighten it. So you want to be able to take it back out pretty easy, but you want to make sure it stays in there. You don't want it to come out. So it's got a stop point. It'll tighten down so far, and that's far enough. But as long as you grease it, it'll be fine when you go to take it back out. But when putting it in, use the long end of the Allen wrench to put it in, so you don't over tighten it. And then when you go to take it out, you can use the short end and give yourself a mechanical advantage taking it out if you need it, but you shouldn't really need it. Now make sure the bolt works good. Bolt's working slick. Always, this is something I do after I've cleaned one of my rifles. I do a safety check on it. Okay, I go over in my head, did I put everything back right? Did I put everything back tight the way it's supposed to go? So the barrel's been cleaned, barrel's been swabbed out, there's no water left in the barrel, it's been oiled. The outside of the gun's been oiled. Breech plug was cleaned, greased on the breech plug, and put back into the rifle. The nipple was greased. Cleaned out the breech plug and the nipple through the fire hole. I've wiped the bolt down, I put the bolt back in the gun, and I put the retaining screw back in the gun. Now the one thing I've got left to do is check the safety to make sure it's still working properly. So it's on safe, the gun is cocked, it's not going off. I'm going to flip it off safe, and then I'm going to bang on it a couple of times. Make sure that, because sometimes you'll get a gun that's safety system be worn on, and you can have it on safe and try to pull the trigger and it doesn't go off, but then you turn the safe off and hit the gun or bump the gun or something and it'll go off. I always want to check it that way so it doesn't. Now I'm going to try pulling the trigger. Work just like it's supposed to. So now we're in good shape. Yep, works just the way it's supposed to. I see a little bit stuff right there that I want to wipe off. Yep, just a little dab of stuff. Got that took care of. Now, don't dry fire these type of guns very much that has the 209 primer, because when you do, you're hitting against the end of the primer pocket where the primer goes. Don't do that, because if you start to flare that, you're either going to make your primer where it won't fit in there, or you're going to make it where it sets too loose and they'll fall out. So just don't fire the bolt down onto that without shooting it. You want the protection of that primer to be sitting in there whenever you're dropping the hammer on that primer pocket on your nipple, so you don't mess that up. But guys, that's all I do to clean one. Make sure you put everything back. Make sure, because I had this actually happen to me once, and I'm ashamed to tell this. I cleaned a muzzleloader once and loaded it back, got it ready to go hunting the next morning, and when I got in the woods and I shot a deer, and it went about 75 yards, laid down, but took it a long time to die, and I decided, well, I'm going to shoot it again, and realized I didn't put my rod back in the rifle. So just so happened a guy I was hunting with come around the hill to where I was at after he heard me shoot, and I told him the situation, and I borrowed his rifle and shot the deer and killed it. But anybody can make mistakes. Now the only thing I've got left to do now is put my sling back on this, put this gun back in storage. It's good to go till next year if I want to wait that long. I probably won't, but it'll work if I need it to. But guys, there it is. There's how I clean a muzzleloader. I hope this video wasn't too long, and any of y'all that fell asleep, wake up. You still got stuff to do. And hope to see you in the next video. It's the Fat Man. I'm gone.